I don't know, like 20 minutes late or 40 minutes early, depending on who you're asking. Like if you're asking me, we're late. If you're asking John, we're early. I mean, let's meet in the middle somewhere. Welcome, to the first ever EOSwriter podcast. EOSwriter has been around since 2018. They ported over to Cryptowriter in the face of absurdity going on in the EOS community. They started expanding. They started moving across blockchains. But like, there's so much going on in the ecosystem right now that we've decided to bring this back to the foundations of where it all began. And this is going to be our series. Sometimes me, sometimes Corey, sometimes us together. Where we're just going to go around and we're going to interview people, projects, sentiment that's happening in the EOS ecosystem. And what better person to kick it all off with than, my good friend, but really EOS's good friend, John Heeter of Boid. You've been in it since the beginning. You've been working on this passion project, which is Boid. Passion projects are hard sometimes. And so you've just been developing across the space and doing all this crazy stuff, for the last, 4 or 5 years on EOS. So welcome, John.
Hey, Jimmy, thanks for having me.
So I like John because, he almost got me on camera. We started, a couple years ago, and you were like, "Hey, do you want to come and host the Boid shows?" And so we did a few of those, which was fun. And then I think I might have gotten you on camera, which was for our show and stuff like that. But now we're all kind of on camera, right? Like we're all there for EdenOnEOS. There's so much crazy stuff going on. I don't really know where to start with you because you're doing so many things. Probably hands down one of the best developers in the EOS space, working on a lot of really cool projects. But I don't know. Let's start on EOS PowerUp because I think that's kind of where things kind of get interesting, right? Like EOS has always been problematic in that you have to pay for an account, you have to go and you have to register it. And you guys created this platform, which is EOSPowerUp.io. And you can come in there and you can sign your name once a day, basically, and get a little bit of free CPU so that you can make a few transactions. Or you can go in there and you can automate it. But you guys are always pushing boundaries, and you did something really cool with PowerUp NFTs. And I guess, are these... Would these happen to be utility NFTs by any chance, John?
They are. There's a planned utility. Hopefully, I can launch the utility, this month. But yeah.
So tell us about the PowerUp in general for people who might not know. What is EOS PowerUp and why is it important?
Sure. So EOS PowerUp is. The reason it was created was to help make things easier for people transitioning from the old resource system to the new resource system on EOS. I could see that a lot of people were going to be confused and stuck in the transition. So I built this tool that made it easy for you to just log in and type in your account name and get a free PowerUp, no questions asked. And this got a lot of people out of a bind. And a lot of people use it on a daily basis to get some free resources to do a few transactions per day. If you need to do more than a few transactions per day, we have a service, an auto PowerUp service where you deposit some funds and we monitor your account. And then when your account needs resources, we automatically give it a PowerUp and we bill you from your deposited resources, and we take a small fee on top of that. So the free PowerUps and the auto PowerUps, they kind of work together. The free PowerUps is good marketing, and the auto PowerUps helps sustain the platform. And it's used by the auto PowerUps are used by major players like Wombat, Atomic Hub, Bullish uses it. It's used by Yup. It's used by sports bets. Name it, they're probably using it in some way. Blocks used it for a while. I think they might still be using it. And so yeah, the auto power ups have been quite successful. We also raised some funds on Pomelo, and part of my pitch on Pomelo was to build NFTs. So I went ahead and did that over the past month. I built a new NFT functionality. So yeah, I can dive into details on whatever you'd like to hear about.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of excited about that. And like, if you haven't been following Boid, some of their NFTs ideas are a little bit beyond a JPEG. Let's just put it that way. the gamification that you guys like try to work in is really cool. And so yeah, I'm kind of interested, right? Because like I've kind of seen this firsthand, and it took me a while to wrap my head around it. You know, back a year ago when you guys started first like playing around with this. But you've got this new NFT line. I think there's about 8 different ones, maybe 6 to 8 different ones, if I recall. And they basically, you guys have a ranking system. So tell us about that. Like, what's up with the ranking system and the NFTs, and how does that work?
Okay. So basically, in order to get, basically anyone who donated towards the platform last year received some free NFTs. So we did an initial airdrop of about 600 NFTs. There's bronze, silver, and gold. And ongoing, if you would like to mint more NFTs, you can participate in the weekly leaderboards. So how this works is you can donate some amount of EOS, and then the amount of EOS that you contribute is turned into points, and then the amount of points that you have is determines your ranking on the leaderboard. And your ranking on the leaderboard determines how much you pay for bronze to mint bronze PowerUp NFTs. So, for example, if you are rank 1, you pay 1 EOS per bronze. If you're rank 2, you might pay 1.1 EOS per bronze. If you're rank 3, you might pay 1.2 or 1.3, or however, it'll change, each week depending on the supply and demand from the previous week. So there was a lot of demand last week. We actually minted over 200 NFTs and collected over 300 EOS. So this week we increased the base price. So yeah.
And so you said I don't know if you can actually even go into this, but you said you're working on like a little bit of utility for these NFTs up and coming. Can we dive into that?
Yeah, if you scroll up and click on the button that says like view PowerUp NFTs, and so like the one on the left, the bronze, it tells you the utility that's planned, and these aren't implemented yet, but they should be implemented soon. So for example, if you lock up a bronze NFT, you can receive more free power-ups. If you lock up a silver NFT, you can use referral codes to invite people and earn a cut of what they spend on the platform. And if you lock up a gold NFT, then basically you can use the platform without paying any platform fees. So
so it's like, in a way, it's almost like a membership card, right? Like a buy one get one, a buy one get one free, or a like, oh yeah, you can come into the clubhouse, we won't call you because of your jean shorts and have you arrested type of thing.
Yeah. And it's a membership card that you could resell to someone else when you're done with it.
Right, which is like, I remember a few months ago when I said this is what all NFTs should be, and people laughed at me. But like, honestly, like if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're going to the supermarket and you're waking up in the morning and you're getting out scissors and you're cutting out coupons so that you can put those on the counter so that you can save a little bit of money because Bitcoin's in a bear market. Dude, man, you're doing it wrong. Seriously, like we need coupon NFTs, right? Like we need NFTs that are redeemable to shops that can be burnt once a QR code is scanned. Like that's kind of the world that I want to live in. And in a way, this is kind of what you guys are bringing, right? Like you're doing it in a little bit of a different way. You're doing it in a lockup way. Now, I'm assuming once these are locked up, there's a time limit on it, and you'd have to lock them up again at a certain point. I'm assuming that this doesn't happen forever. I could be wrong, but I'm kind of curious about that.
There's no plans for them to expire. So once you lock them up, you get that benefit forever.
Okay.
And there's you couldn't. There'll be a limit on how often you can lock them up. So you might if once you lock it up, you have to keep it locked for 2 weeks before you could unlock it if you wanted to sell it, for example. But yeah, there's no plans to make them expire or burn. Maybe that'll happen in the future, but I don't.
Yeah, I like it, man. Like I think it's really it's smart. Like I honestly I hate money and I don't want to think about it. And like if all money was just chickens that are on a picture of an NFT, I would much rather do that. It's kind of where I'd be. But yeah, that's really cool. So yeah, definitely go over and check this out. You can check out EOS PowerUp.io. Do you and you're also doing something that's kind of connected with that, power pools?
Power pools is kind of separate.
Okay, sorry. I kind of realized I kind of thought they were semi-connected because you guys are involved in so many things that I get confused. So, do you have any updates with power pools? Like, there's a little bit of a gamification aspect to that as well.
I would like to, now that this is really the first project where I've built with NFTs, and now that I've got comfortable with NFTs, I have ideas for adding NFTs to power pools, like. When you complete a commitment successfully, you would mint an NFT, and then maybe that NFT is like an entry into another pool. So you have like an exclusive pool that you can only get into if you completed a previous pool, things like that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Maybe that's why I got confused because you got bronze, silver, gold here as well.
That's true. I do use, they both have the word power in them, and they both have the concept of bronze, silver, gold. So you can tell they were kind of made from the same mind, I guess.
It's the it's the John Boid mind meld. Yeah, very cool. Man, it's kind of. It's kind of crazy, actually. Like coming from the space in 2018, where a lot of us came into EOS, and we were really excited about the fact that all these projects were going to be building on EOS and dropping us free tokens to a world where all of these tokens became useless and projects were dying left, right, and center because there was no backing and there was no funding, to a world where, like, I don't know, like you get the ENF, you've got Fractally now, you've got Dan back in the community, you've got John Williamson who's over there working with Dan that's trying to meld the ideas of Steemit, Clarion and BitShares all together into this massive type of thing. Pomelo, the fourth quarter last year, we just finished up all of these Pomelo grant systems, which you guys were a big part of. And you got something now called Rant, where that should have been mine. Like, that's awesome, Eve, but like I'm the one that should have hashtag Rant and been on the internet because I do that anyway by default. So like, what's your take, right? Like it's February of 2022. Eden's here. All of this other stuff is here. There's funding coming in. There's apparently things that we don't know about that's like being developed on the back end. The world, in a way, kind of still hates EOS. but nobody really knows what's going on, right? Like, and so I'm kind of curious, because you're kind of one of the people that I would say, tech wise or development wise, is probably, in the deep end with all the big boys, really. Like you did the stuff with governance, right? Like you've been working with a ton of projects, really, honestly. Like, I don't even know how you keep up. Like I've helped these guys do this feed is probably longer than my Twitter feed, honestly, John. Like it's like so what are your thoughts on EOS? Like, what are you bearish on? What are you bullish on? Like, I mean, I'm kind of curious from a developer standpoint.
I love all the new upgrades that are coming down the pipe with the Mando fork. And there's a lot of great communication and coordination happening between chains and between groups that we just haven't seen in the past few years. So it does feel like the early days of EOS, when there was lots of potential and lots of collaboration. But I do feel like it, from a politics and just like social media side of things, it takes a lot of time for all that bubbling under the surface to really be visible to people on the outside. And EOS still has, massive branding issues due to all the things that have happened in the past. So, I like to build I like to build on EOS.io tech. I like to be in the ecosystem and things like that. And I hope that things will pick up and the outside communities will pay attention and things like that. I think it will happen. I think, it's not if, but when. But I think when is like maybe longer than some people think it is. Some people are. I think it's going to take another year, basically, before anyone outside really starts to pay attention to everything that we're doing. Yeah.
So it's funny to me, because like, this is always one of the things that I kind of liked about Boid as well, back from the early days. But we had Michael O'Sullivan on from Bywire News not so long ago, last week. And I mean, if you go over there and you look at what they're doing, it's all running on EOS, but nobody even realizes it. Nobody even really knows it, right? And I think this might actually be the power of EOS is, I think a lot of these applications that are going to come, they're like, EOS is going to be running in the background and people won't even necessarily know it, right? But like you said, I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow or next week. like honestly, even in the crypto space, if it happens in a year, that's pretty quick. Because like in the real world, like we might be sitting here for the next decade where people are still using like fiat cash payments, right? Which is crazy to me. But yeah, I mean that's just the way that things are, and I'm excited to see it, but at the same time, just Dan being back in the community is super exciting. Except now Dan's not muzzled, so he can say whatever he wants, and every 3.5 minutes he changes his mind and it comes up with some new brilliant idea, right? It's like, but like, I think that's what I'm excited about the most, really. It's like this fractally thing with the governance thing. Like you were a big part of EdenOnEOS and the governance structure and the voting structure. And I'm kind of like excited to see what the next stage of this looks like, right? Like the last stage was okay. It wasn't fully integrated. And the funds actually from EOS, I'm confused. Was it EOS PowerUp? A lot of the funds that actually helped to build this out, which is such a great thing for the community, kind of came from that first round of the EdenOnEOS elections, right? Like you were in there and you were promoting a project that actually has real value, like real world utility. And you were able to get those funds. And now we've got Pomelo, like the Pomelo grants. I know you were quite involved. Your team was quite involved in putting proposals for that forth. Now, I'm kind of curious about like the community funding versus waiting for a centralized entity to to fund projects. Like you actually have to put in a little bit of work, right? Like if you want Pomelo funding or if you want EdenOnEOS funding, you actually have to go in there and you have to say your case. You can't just write a paper and say, hey, Block One, give us money. So what do you think, like, are the power or the advantages or disadvantages of this, right? Because I think you hit on a really good point. Like, there's a lot of hype around it, but the hype is still internal, right? And so, like, it's kind of hard sometimes maybe to sustain this hype over, like, long periods of time. Like, I remember in the early days when Block One was going to, like, destroy the world and then create a whole new one in their image, which didn't really happen. And so I'm kind of curious about, like, Pomelo round 2 is coming, right? Like, is this hype going to sustain itself? Do you think that we're going to have other projects from other blockchains that are coming in that are looking at funding to build on EOS or some of these other side chains? Like, how many cycles can we go through this? Okay, we're going to give out tons of money type of thing before the rest of the world really starts paying attention.
I think it'll be, slowly and then all at once kind of thing. So maybe this first season of Pomelo, it was mostly internal projects that people had already heard of, but there was a few outlier projects where, like, oh, that's new. They must be new around here. I think this season will be the same, except maybe there'll be 10% new projects that you never heard of, right? And these new projects, as more good news gets out and more funding is going around, we'll start attracting these more external, serious projects. And maybe a year from now, it'll be a different story. It'll be 80% new projects and 20% internal projects.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. And sometimes it's even hard for us to keep up now. Like I went online the other day and I was like, when does Pomelo season 2 start? Like, when's the next Eden election? Like, I don't even know, but, like, I'm actually going and searching out this information because I want to, see what comes next. So, I guess finally I want to ask you, because I think the last time, that we talked to someone from your team officially was, maybe not you, it might have been Seth. Give us an update. Like, another thing that you guys have been working on over the course of time is essentially the Boid game, right? The Boid Void. And so I'm kind of curious if you guys have any updates with that that are coming out. Like,
we'll be publishing an update pretty soon, so keep a lookout for that. It's nothing out of the ordinary, just pre-production type work. But yeah, we'll have an update soon from the Pomelo funding to show the community the progress we've made. And then for Pomelo season 2, hopefully we can earn, another round of funding to continue that work.
Yeah, I'm kind of, so for those of you that don't know, like, I owe John a bit of a debt of gratitude, because I kind of, started doing some stuff over there, and it was always really exciting to see you guys pushing boundaries, right? Like, all of the things that you were kind of grappling with, like, the inside of your head must just be like a caged Royal Rumble of ideas, and whichever one gets out of the cage first, right? Because, like, it's a little bit nuts, right? So, but yeah, like what else is going on, or what other thoughts or sentiments do you have? Like, is there anything else that you kind of want to dive into about EOS, or like, I mean, this is focused on EOS, but, like, I keep getting yelled at because it's like we've got all of this hype, but then the FUD kind of died down a little bit. Like, there's, like you said, some interesting things that are happening. I think later today, or Friday, maybe for me it's later today. There's this thing that's happening where a bunch of people are going to go and they're going to hang out and play on Blankos, and for the most part, everyone's really excited about just getting in together and playing games together and talking about whatever happens to come up. There's always 2 or 3 people who are like, well, Blankos isn't on the mainnet, like, EOS sucks, right? Like, it's like,
Does Blankos even have a connection to mainnet in any way? I mean,
No, I think like they're on their own private chain, right? Like, and so like,
I saw Blankos NFTs on Ethereum.
I didn't know that actually. That's really interesting. Maybe, yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that because I don't know. I just saw a Twitter post that said like we're gonna get together and we're gonna talk about EOS and EOS IO, right? And like for the most part, everyone was like kind of excited about it, and there's this sentiment that's like what's good for EOS is good for EOS IO, even if it happens to be a private chain. Right? I mean, it worked the other way. What was bad for EOS pretty much killed the whole the whole kind of sector, right? But like, yeah, I'm curious, like, as to your thoughts, right? Like, because like I know we're focused on EOS, but if you look at like the action, which works out really well for you guys, over on Telos, for example, right? Like the evil sister chain that nobody in EOS loves. Like they're really like they really are killing it, right? I know you do, but they're like killing it, right? Like if EOS could have been that successful in the early days, like there might not be any other chains out there, right? Like they're just killing it, right? So it's like I'm kind of curious, like how do you see the interplay of EOS versus EOS IO? Over there, because like there's still that like little group of people who are like really upset about the fact that like all the development that's coming out of these other chains was quote unquote funded by money for people investing in EOS and stuff like that. And I know like you're one of the people who are working across multiple chains, so like is it that simple, really? Like, is it just like we're all EOS IO and we have to get over this? Like,
I mean,
EOS is Big Daddy.
it's one thing if you just take code, copy and paste it, and run your own chain and try and like suck, energy away from the thing you copied from. Like that's one thing. But Telos, like anyone that follows it is like, yeah, they've modified like everything. They've customized it like crazy. They've built all this other stuff on top of it. There's a lot of innovation there. So you can't say that it's like a lazy copy paste chain. There are those lazy copy paste chains out there. Those happen on every blockchain.
Right.
There's lots of lazy copy paste EVM chains that just take Geth and change the name to a different token and relaunch it, and they're like, we have a faster Ethereum, so like Binance Smart Chain is an example where they just modified Geth to make it faster, or tried to, and made their own thing. So that's just something people complain about when the price is going down, and they just want to complain about something.
I guess it's gone down a little bit. Like EOS is really the ultimate stable coin, to be honest. I mean, it was through the whole bull market anyway. It's like the price.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's not just, the sad thing about the EOS price in particular is that it's impacted every project that built infrastructure on the chain. Because a lot of projects have liquidity pools with EOS, and when EOS goes down, it makes it more difficult for their token to move against it, right? And this is true whenever a token has like a large liquidity pool with another token. So yeah, it has more repercussions than just like, why doesn't the price go up? It has more repercussions because it impacts other projects that are building on the chain, not just EOS token holders.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Of course, you need to sell tokens at some point to be able to fund development. It's like it would be a really interesting world if we could all just work for free, so that anyone who invested in the tokens could get paid. Because that's essentially some of the fun that we get sometimes, right? It's like, oh, well, you guys are like, you can't sell the token. You can't use that token. You can't fund your own development. Like, we paid. We should get a return. That's like, it frustrates me. Like, just build something. So, but there is like a lot of development, a lot of building going on. So beyond any of the projects that you're officially working on, which we've already kind of talked about. I kind of want to know, I wish I had like a cue that I could just like, play like some weird cheesy's like 80 news, thing across the screen. The inside scoop with John Boyd. So what are some things that are happening on the mainnet that you're excited about? Because like you said, there's been a little bit of rejuvenation because of Pomelo, because of Eden, because of all these other things. Is there any project that you're like super curious to see what they do with it and why, really? Like there's a few new projects coming out. There's a few old projects that are like still around that are still kicking it. What are you bullish on, actually, John, on the mainnet?
There's a developer, Pieces is his name, that he worked on EOS Stack and Daclify and EdenOnEOS and a few other projects. We've worked with him on things, and he's helped us with other things. And he's working on a project now for where you can, hold and transfer tokens and do actions without a account with just a key. So he's been building, a contract and some back end code to do that. And I think that's pretty cool. I would like to use that for like a new version 2 of Boid that I've been working on. So that's, I've been talking with him about, using that.
That sounds actually quite interesting.
Yeah, you should get him on.
I would love to have him on, actually. I've been trying to have him on for years, and I know a couple of the other things that he's worked on, but yeah, we'll totally try to do that. So, and like you said, version 2 of Boid, right? Like, so, Boid, in a way, for people who don't know, because, my good friend Sean on the Edge always yells at me, they just assume that I just assume that people know what I'm talking about, but maybe that might not be true. Boid uses like spare GPU and CPU to basically run background calculations. Like it's almost like an inner web of its own to solve like real life problems with science or health or space and things like this. It's kind of like a interweb AI type of scenario where they can just run mass computations to be able to get to the bottom of things that need to be solved. It's kind of like your passion project. It's kind of like where you all started. It's still running in the background after all this time. Nobody's really paying attention to it, right? Like there used to be Boid seasons and things like that. But there's still like a ton of people who are just turning off their computers or powering down their computers at night, and these applications are still running in the background. So I'm just kind of curious: is there any updates to like what problems you guys are trying to solve? Like what are the, like, because each season was kind of dedicated to a different thing. Like I think the last one that I'm aware of that you guys did was to develop towards like coronavirus and trying to figure out like research and stuff. Is that still the ongoing thing, or is there something else that you've added to that mix as well?
We're still focusing the research projects that Boid contributes to. It's basically like 50-50 between childhood cancer research and pandemics simulation research.
Okay.
So it hasn't changed much. It hasn't really been a focus for us to bring on, more projects than that, since we're kind of working on a version 2 of Boid that's a complete rewrite from the ground up. So once we are ready to unveil that, then we will start, talking about, some different research projects. And also we would like to expand outside of scientific research, like for example, generative artificial intelligence for doing art. There's a few projects out there that I've been paying attention to where you can like mint an NFT where an AI will draw some random art and then you get to like name it or put a title on it and kind of create like a little story. So it's kind of this collaborative, so we have a lot of computing power. So we were thinking like, oh, what if we use the Boid network to generate like really abstract or really high resolution NFT art, computer generated NFT art. And so there's some ideas there. that we would like to pursue. Hopefully we'll be able to unveil something like that this year.
That's a really cool idea. I like that a lot. And like, yeah, like EOS definitely has dropped the ball when it comes to the NFT game, and like it's good for something like Wax, right? Like they're tearing it up. They're going absolutely nuts. But like, yeah, there's almost nothing. I like there's the writer ones, like the Finny ones over on EOS. There's they're like EOS Nation, and their NFTs used to be exclusively focused on EOS, but like they've branched out to other chains now as well, just because they can't do it. So I'd like to see kind of a bit of a rejuvenation. Of course, like Underground from the writer team is coming soon at some point. But I don't know why, but in the back of my mind, something popped up when you were saying that. Right. So the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, because I didn't do it because the timing was really bad for me. I think the guys over on, I think it was actually hosted by Baby Rami James. There recently has been this kind of rejuvenation of like all the EOSIO people on like this open kind of committee meeting. Like, did you attend that, John, or were you a part of that? Like the kind of.
Sorry, my dog is chewing on my foot. The meeting, which meeting?
So there was like I think it was about a week or 2 weeks ago, and it basically brought like a bunch of people from the community from like all across all the EOSIO chains together, and they were basically like, it was like a working groups meeting, right?
You mean
basically talking all
Plus?
Yeah, something like that. So
I watched that one. It was great. It's not everyone. It's more like people that run. It's more like block producers from each chain.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So,
yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I thought it was. Yeah, maybe that's why I was. But I'm not a block producer.
It's more like to coordinate big updates, and it looks like they're going to have like an EOSIO Foundation, so that'll be fun.
Right, that's really cool. I like that idea. I would love to see. There's so much potential, really, and like if EOS can get their shit together, and other chains start like kicking back, and there's this like collective type of. I mean, EOS. This is going to sound weird, but EOS could potentially be the United States of blockchains, right? Like they could all have their own little niche, their own little, state that they're excelling in, and still run under the same operational code that keeps everyone cohesive. So I'm just really excited to see what happens. I can't even use the word bullish anymore, because like what wasn't being talked about when everyone was talking about bullish is way more exciting to me personally, right? Like the fact that you have all these crowdfunding things that people can actually use. So, but that's all for me, John. Like we can wrap it up soon, unless you have anything to walk us out with, or anything that we should be paying attention to that we haven't already talked about actually.
Well, round 2 of or week 2 of the PowerUp NFTs leaderboard started today. So I would encourage anyone that hasn't checked it out to go and take a look. If you make a donation on the first day, you get bonus points. So there's an incentive to donate early.
And I think I saw like the minimum donation is quite low, right? It's like 0.1 or something, 0.1 EOS.
The minimum is, but if you want to actually mint something, you've got to contribute at least 1 EOS, and depending on your rank, it's going to be more than that.
Right. And so like the earlier you get in, the less you have to use to be able to mint something. So it kind of levels up over time. The more after every mint of this NFT, the price to mint the next one goes up a tad and a tad and a tad across the board, right?
Yeah. There's some interesting mechanics. It seems like people are enjoying it. So
yeah. I remember something that was similar to that you guys put together. That it was super fun. It was like, do I do them all now, or do I wait? Like, yeah, it's definitely good.
Yeah, I like building little leaderboard stuff like that.
That's great. So EOS PowerUp.io, the third little thing across from the side. click on the NFT button. You can read about it there. It's all there. So again, from me and the writer team, it was great to get this kind of update, touch base. Where in the EOS realm is John Heeter type of sit down and relax, Carmen Sandiego thing. But yeah, thank you honestly for coming on and just shooting the shit, because I think that's what we need, right? Like, we're looking back, if we're looking back like 2-3 years ago and thinking about how many people were on the air talking about EOS, right? Like, there was EOS Radio. I mean, there was, Zach and he was doing his thing. There were all of these shows that were just talking about what's happening on the mainnet, and no one's really doing it right now. People are giving updates. And so that's what we want to do here, is we want to go back to those roots. We want to bring people on. We want to get sentiment. We want to get projects. We just want to talk about what people think, because it's important, rather than just like shilling or like, quote unquote, asking for money to build stuff. We really need that back. So if you're out there and you're listening, thanks for joining in. Please go over to the Boid channels or to the EOS PowerUp channels and support John, or ask any questions that you might have to the team over there. But also, come into our channels over here at the Cryptowriter. And if you have an idea of someone that you would like to see on here with Jimmy or Corey and shoot the shit and learn more, like, feel free to suggest it, because we're here. We're here to make EOS great again, I guess. That's really lame, but let's just go with that. Thanks, John. That's pretty much it for all of us here today.
All right. Yeah, really appreciate it, Jimmy. It's great to talk with you.
Always a pleasure, mate.